All right, we are live. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Ink. We are the talk show that takes you behind the book to meet the authors and professionals in the publishing industry. And boy, do we have a great topic to talk about today. But before we get into that, let's introduce our wonderful panel. Jay, welcome back. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling all right. I am working on a quilting project today, so I'm glad to be down here taking a break from that because I'll tell you, it's a lot of work. I've never made a blanket before, but I'll tell you what, it really is a lot of work. But it's also really satisfying too, seeing everything come together in a really cool way. And I just want to say that each of my little screens, my 4 little screens, is the size of my laptop screen. Now with this ridiculously huge monitor I've got going on, it's hard. I can't look at all of you at one time. I have to look at just one of you. Okay, yeah, that's about it. Where did Joe go?
Joe's hiding from us.
There's Joe. Oh, Joe just wanted to be on the other side of the screen.
I was playing with the buttons down below, and I saw the chat, and I pressed the chat, and I didn't realize it takes you to a whole other website. So I was like, what the hell? Where did I go?
No pressing buttons, Joe.
I'm not going to touch anything anymore. I'm just going to be here unless I have to duck out. But yeah, otherwise.
Well, as you all know, that is Papa Joe up in there in the upper right-hand corner. How are you doing today,
Hello,
Joe?
everybody. Yeah, pretty good. Things are just crazy in my life right now in my world. So yeah, but things, it's good crazy. So I'm happy. So.
I think that's the theme of 2021 is crazy because it has been just a whirlwind. I can't believe we're almost at the middle of February already. What happened to January?
Oh, hi, Anita. Hi, Rebecca. And then Katie, because this is a super serious episode, do you want to super seriously introduce our guest today?
I will super seriously do this because it is a very serious episode, and you make sure that you are paying attention. So we have Colleen Cross, and she is one of the duo that is heading up this whole AudibleGate issue through the fair. I always mess up the name of this group. The Fair Deal for Rights Holders and Narrators group about the AudibleGate issue. So welcome, Colleen. I'm so glad to have you here today.
Thank you so much. I'm really glad to be here. I'm looking forward to discussing all the nuts and bolts of this AudibleGate thing. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I'm so thankful you were able to come on. We kind of ambushed you guys last minute and said, hey, do you want to come on this week? And so it's kind of been a back and forth. But I'm so glad we were able to get you on, and we will get Susan on too because she is the other one. That's how this started. It started with one author saying, wait a second, this isn't right. And just letting everyone else know. And the more we find out about it, just the worse the problem gets and the more we hope we can fix it. And
I'm looking forward to the show because apparently it has something to do with audiobooks. And I just learned about what those are 23 minutes ago. So this is going to be good. But before we do all that, we should probably give a shout out to our sponsor, Katie.
Yeah, our sponsor might get mad at us if we forget about him.
He's
who is he again? Who is he again?
Hello, everybody. I am Joe Compton, and welcome to our channel, Go Indie Now. This is the place that celebrates indie artists and indie art, and we do so by producing several shows that either air on daily, weekly, monthly, or seasonal scheduling. And within those shows, we aim to educate and entertain you. If you're an indie artist who's trying to figure out how to do this, this is the place you need to be. If you're an indie artist who's looking to promote and doesn't have any avenues and is tired of the grind, this is the place to be. Because remember, it's always time to go indie now.
That's such a catchy little phrase there. It's always time to go indie now. It really is.
I love it when Katie says it.
I do too.
She says it perfectly.
She does, and she's got a nice pause in there and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of reminds me, and I know that at least Katie and Joe have seen Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It reminds me of the episode where Boyle and Captain Holt are going. You have as well, Colleen?
Yes, yeah, good show.
Okay, good deal. Good deal. Yes, it's definitely my fave. So Boyle and Captain Holt have gone to track down the commissioner to try to get him to let their precinct off the hook for something or other. And Boyle is trying to teach him how to pause, and he's like, pump, pump with the eyebrows. Commissioner, pump, pump. How's your wife? Pump. And that's what it reminds me of. It's always time to pump, pump. Go Indy now, pump.
Yes.
And if I may say so, that guy that does that ad, he's a wee bit sexy.
Yeah, a little bit, just a little bit. What? Oh,
All right.
goodness.
Before we get off the rails, before we even get on track today,
It's not me this time. It's
material to get
that
through.
person.
All right. So for those of you who did not watch last night's Indie News show over on Go Indie Now, that is the first Friday of every month. So mark your calendars. Make sure you're checking out the Go Indie Now YouTube page. We talked about a bunch of different issues that are important to indies, but one of the most important was AudibleGate. And for those of you not caught up, I'm going to give you a quick, well, sort of quick, it's really long, recap of what has been going on so far. So AudibleGate erupted back in October of 2020. Authors discovered that Audible had been deducting the returns from the author's sales to the tune of about 50% of their earnings. Now, this is because of the Audible Great Listener Guarantee, which allows a subscriber to return or exchange an audiobook within 365 days of purchase.
That seems like it's too long.
That is ridiculous. That is an absolutely ludicrous amount of time. So once that book is returned, what Audible, ACX, it's all an Amazon company, what they do is they pull that royalty back from the rights holder and they pocket it. They don't lose anything. The member gets a credit. The member's already paid their fees. So Audible loses absolutely nothing, but the rights holder loses their earnings on that sale. So the accounting of the returns has also been a big issue too. And the reason for that is when you look at your sales dashboard, you just see net sales. You don't see returns versus sales. So when you find that you've got a negative number sitting there, you don't know how many books brought it to that negative number. You don't know if that's one. That could be multiple books. Is it eating your sales? We have no way to find out because there's no transparency at all to tell us this. So that's what started the issue. It was a whistleblower, an author spoke up, and they started the Fair Deal for Rights Holders and Narrators group to help bring other people into the information and get us talking in one voice. Susan May was the one who broke that, and she created the group. By about November, AudibleGate, the hashtag, started trending on social media, and we started to get help from the authors guilds. Now that's multiple guilds. There was the Authors Guild in the US, there was the UK Society of Authors, the Alliance of Independent Authors. A lot of them were stepping up to fight the good fight with us about this, because this is not the way that authors and rights holders should be treated. So they went in, they had some meetings about this, and Audible promised us that they were going to start notifying us of changes they're making. What changes did they make? In, I believe it was November, we were told that in December we'd get 5% extra on our sales. And then as of January 1st, 2021, they would stop pulling back the royalties if it was returned within, what was it, 7 days? More than 7 days, excuse me, more than 7 days. So anything within 7 days, they still pull your royalty back. Anything over 7 days, they won't pull your royalty back. But they failed to clarify one very key point here. This is going effective January 1st, 2021. So December 31st, somebody buys an audiobook, they have 365 days to return it, and you're still going to lose that royalty. So we're not going to see any real fixes in this royalty issue until the end of this year, when those stop filtering through. They stop grandfathering those in. And again, without any transparency on the sales dashboard, we don't know how many we're losing, when those sales happened, and we can't really accurately tell if they're being truthful. And let's face it, they haven't been truthful so far. So after multiple meetings between the Fair Group for Rights group, the Authors Guilds, and Audible, they came back and they said, okay, here's the new deal. In March, you're going to start seeing some data. They didn't clarify what the data is yet, just some data. And of course, we're not in March yet, so we don't know. We'll have to wait and see on that. They did say as of January 1st, 2021, They are doing the 7-day rule. So again, not really changing much. But they did offer an appeasement that I don't think we were really asking for initially. And that is that you can now break ties with them. You're no longer locked into that 7-year contract. You can also break from being exclusive and go wide with your books. That is something that is important to us. It's not going to fix the problem, but it is something that does provide us a benefit to the authors. So
it was a big deal for me.
Quick recap.
It was a big deal for me, actually, because I just signed to get my, well, I shouldn't say anything because we haven't announced anything, so never mind. But it was a big deal to me. But
it's a big deal for me because now I can go back. I have 9 books in Audible, and because I'm a poor author, I did royalty share for most of them. So I'm locked into that 7-year contract. And one of them I just published. I had just published with ACX right before this.
I remember that.
Oh my God.
Katie, can I ask you real quick? You said that we now have the option of going wide with them, but if I remember correctly, that was a lesser payout.
Yes.
Than
Oh yes.
being exclusive. So do you get the lesser payout then?
Yeah, you would get the lesser payout, but
Okay.
the real benefit is that you can break from Audible.
Yeah.
You
I
can
have a
take the
question.
book away and put it with a different service, which may or may not have better rates, but you're no longer locked into Audible. You no longer have your hands tied.
I have
Go
a
ahead,
question
Joe.
that'll bring Colleen into the conversation. I know that they sat down with ACX, and I don't know who else was involved in the conversation. But was that meeting before or after Jeff Bezos has stepped down?
So interesting. It was before. I don't think we were the direct cause of him stepping down, just to be clear.
No. Absolutely not.
Yeah,
But there's a reason why I asked that question, because, I'm curious if the new management has talked to you about this yet and what their thoughts were, because I know Bezos had some really strong opinions about it.
Oh, well, actually, the meeting never happened because they canceled about an hour or two before we were to meet. So the meeting never happened, but that was, as a result of that scheduled meeting that never happened is when, the breaking of the 7-year term happened and the ability to go wide 90 days instead of a year and a few other things. So it's almost like, personally what I think that, with all the antitrust things going on with Amazon right now, the 7-year thing would never fly. That's an antitrust thing. It's anti-competitive. I'm not a lawyer, by the way, but, just common sense tells me that if it's 7 years, that they can actually prevent all our audiobooks from being, on Kobo or Google Play or wherever. Well, that wasn't going to fly for them anyway. So they gave us something, but they were going to have to do that anyway.
Can I ask another?
Orna Ross say something about that in her statement she made?
I think she did.
I have it in my notes somewhere. Yeah, that really, the terms were very unique to ACX and Audible and made them vulnerable to legal challenges. So they were covering their ass basically by doing that.
Exactly. And Audible has the most unique arrangement. I mean, they've got the 7-year term, but they also have, like you mentioned, Katie, about the 365 today easy exchange policy. Well, I mean, they're really trying to make themselves out like a library, but libraries actually pay us rights holders. When somebody goes and checks out a book from the library, we get paid. Mm-hmm. And, so for Audible to, compete against the libraries while not paying us, that's something that every author should be thinking about right now, because this is just starting. And the more people that get habituated to going to ACX because the books are essentially free, it hurts us, it hurts the libraries, it hurts the other stores. And for the ecosystem to work, to be fair for everybody, it has to be an ecosystem, not just ACX and individual authors.
Yeah, and yes, Mike Faria, Jeff Bezos has officially stepped down from his role as CEO. He still owns stock in the company, but his title has been given out to somebody else.
We
I didn't know
get
that
to that
either.
topic on the news network last night.
That was my fault, everybody. Blame me. I'm sorry about that. We were going to
No,
talk about it, and I went off on a rant that lasted about 10 minutes, and it's all my fault. So I apologize.
We also missed out on the class action
Why are
suit
you
that-
bringing up stuff that nobody knows they missed out on? Why are you doing that? Why? Why do that?
Because
I'm-
I wrote it all down, damn it, and I didn't get to say it.
Well, I was just confused because I rely on that one show to get all my news for the month. So I'm like, what's happening if it's not on that show?
Just kick me when I'm down. That's fine. All right. Yes, it's all my fault. And I'll take all the brunt of the blame. So yes, you guys can throw your hate towards me. All the news stories did not get reported because I had to talk 10 minutes about the Independent Spirit Award. Sorry.
What is the Independent Spirit Award? I'm
What is the
kidding.
Independent
No,
Spirit?
no,
I'm
stop.
kidding.
Don't do it. Back on track. Back on track. So back to the concessions that Audible made, and I think it was Susan who wrote a really good third blog about this, and she outlined what they said versus the
Look at this
truth, like
comment.
the actual truth. And some of them were hilarious, like Audible claiming that their return terms were within industry standards. And then she went on to outline the industry standards. So great listener guarantee is what Audible offers, right? 365 days to return, no questions asked. That's within industry standards. Yet Amazon, again, Audible, ACX, it's all Amazon. Amazon Prime has a 48-hour 0% watched return policy. Amazon Digital Returns for educational resources is returnable within 7 days of purchase if it has not been downloaded. Games, software downloads, purchases from the Amazon App Store, Amazon Digital Music Store, or Amazon Video are not returnable after purchase unless it is within 48 hours and the customer has not attempted to watch or download it. This is Amazon. This is their own company.
There's also a policy with the music part in Amazon. If the music, if there's a broken link or something to that effect, you can, and then they can't fix it, they'll offer you a credit or they'll give you your money back for that. And that's at any time. So if the link ever gets broken on their website or anything like that, if you bought it like 4 years ago, because I had that happen to me, I downloaded an album from there and the links got broken because the person either re-uploaded a new version of the song or something and they changed the link, and so Amazon fixed that for me. So that's something that they offer. I know we're not trying to be nice about Amazon, but I just want to say.
No, we're talking about the hypocrisy of Amazon with all of their policies for returns of other stuff, and yet audiobooks, oh no, go ahead, you just return that. And what it leads to is, let's say you've got an author who has a 6-book series and all 6 books are in audio. The customer uses their member credit that they get for paying their monthly membership fee. So it's what they would have paid anyways. They listen to book 1, return it. Listen to book 2, return it. Listen to book 3, return it. All the way through the series. They have spent literally nothing. And yet Amazon is pulling money back from the author for each of those sales.
I had no idea that you could do that. To think of all the frickin' audiobooks I actually bought and then kept. I feel like an idiot.
Gonna punch you.
You're a good person, Jay. Thank you.
And here's the thing. Amazon, Audible, ACX, they're all the same. They say, oh no, there's no abuse of this system. Well, thank you to the Fair Deal for Rights Holders and Narrators group, because many of the members have outlined how it has been abused and continues to be abused over and over and over again. So absolutely it is being abused. And they're allowing it. They don't care. They turn a blind eye to it.
I have another question for Colleen to bring her back into the conversation if I can.
Of course.
Have you guys had conversations with Findaway Voices at all?
I believe I'm not sure. I think maybe Susan has, or maybe Orna Ross of the society, Ali has. I haven't personally, but we're in talks with quite a few people in the industry, and we're looking at what we can do exactly. But I guess, is there a certain thing that you were wondering about
Well,
might know.
I'm just curious. I'm just curious because they're pushing incentives to help authors out, and because of AudibleGate, a lot of it seems like timely that it was happening around AudibleGate. I mean, I'm not saying that's the reason why, but it just looks like that, and so I'm curious if they've reached out to you guys to kind of spearhead, help you with your efforts and that aspect, because it seems like it would be in their interest to do so.
You would think so, yeah. They haven't.
Has Mark Coker reached out to you guys?
No, he hasn't. No, not that I'm aware of. There's something interesting that I'd like to just mention about Findaway. They are, I guess, the leading source where indie authors go if they want to go wide. They distribute to so many bookstores, which is great. One thing that I wasn't aware of, and then Will Dages clarified, asked him just on a post on Facebook, but they also upload through ACX when they go to Audible. So I was quite surprised, because I was wondering, well, why do they have a 7-year contract? Like a lot of the publishers do as well, like Tantor, Podium. And so this is just something that I'm starting to explore, because, I assumed they had some other way of getting to Audible. I didn't realize that most or all of them are using this ACX platform. So it's interesting, because that means that the people that, and I'm sort of going off on a different tangent here, I should stop. But, the people that sold their rights, well, they're getting like 30% of a small percentage number to start with. And so, I don't know if they were aware of that when they signed up.
Probably
I'm
not.
curious. I would be curious how much transparency they get too, because, would Macmillan or, HarperCollins get the same kind of transparency that we get, even though they use the same system? Would ACX appease to them? That's my curiosity with this, because we get no transparency whatsoever. So I'm curious if HarperCollins, I mean, maybe they don't care because they got so much invested, they just put it out there and let ACX do whatever ACX is going to do with it, and maybe they don't ever look at their sales board. But I'd be curious about that.
I was thinking the same thing, Joe. And it's interesting because the publishers never used to ask for audio rights, and now they do. And you wonder, do they see that sort of as like a bonus add-on that, if it makes money, great. If it doesn't, no big deal, right? As opposed to the author, where
Right.
you've invested, you invested money in writing the book and the editing, the publishing, the ads, everything. And so you've got quite a different perspective. But you go into it with good faith when you sign your rights and you include audio, because you think, it's going to get the same kind of promo and visibility that, print will, or ebook, and that, that sort of thing. So it's a question I've got as well.
Okay, I don't want to go off on this really quickly, but if anybody in the chat just saw what I saw, Katie's screen did it again, where you had this little lightning bolt flash in front of you, Katie. So I'm curious if anybody in the chat saw it.
I was responding to Rebecca's comment, and I wasn't even paying attention. Dang it. It's this enormous screen. I have to look way over here to look at the chat and then look back.
I think Joe's seeing things.
Probably.
Joe, have you been drinking hard on the job up there?
No, but I haven't slept much. So yeah, it's probably true.
Oh,
All
goodness.
right. Where did we leave off? We kind of went off on a tangent again.
Yeah. Here, hang it. Katie, I got to show you guys this. These were some of my, I'm making Christmas presents for next year, sewing them. And check out some of my bags I made.
Oh, cool.
Wow, those are nice.
Yeah. They've got little inside pockets and everything.
Which one's my Christmas?
I see an Etsy shop in your future, Mr. Lavelle. Or Jay.
Oh my goodness. And check this out. I went full dork. Let's see if you guys can see this. I got little custom sewing tags. Jay's. Yes.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome.
I got into this for some reason. Okay, yes. Now, Katie, if you're done distracting us, let's get back to business here.
Right.
You were talking. So, you were talking about. Oh, go ahead. You found your place.
Speaking of Findaway Voices, because that seems to be the alternative that people are going towards. They allow for the other channels, which is good, because going wide with Audible, your reduction in royalty is like almost nothing when you get to the final numbers. Is it worth it to do the wide with Findaway Voices and avoid going with ACX altogether, or avoid not even using that channel.
Is that for me to answer?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm on Findaway. I have to say I'm quite happy with them. I love getting my books out to all the channels. And I was exclusive on ACX to start with, so my books are already there, and I've thought of pulling them. I don't know if I will or I won't. I'm just going to wait and see how everything plays out. But I think that it depends, I guess, on how you market things, like how much effort you put into the other channels, right? Because people always put all the effort into Amazon or ACX or Audible, sorry, because they think it's the biggest channel. But if we put efforts on those other places, they will grow too. And I think the biggest area that would compete with Audible is the libraries, because if you look at it from the listener's point of view, they want free books. So those people that are recycling their credits, and they think that we get paid and we don't, but that's Audible presenting it that way. And they are the people that want to just be able to get free books. So those are the people that are now going to the library. I'm in a lot of audio groups, and I've seen them. They comment. They like Hoopla. They like Libby. They're going to those places. So I just think that's a healthy market to have many alternatives for a person to get their audiobooks.
I was going to say, do they really care? I mean, do they really care if they're getting free stuff?
Yeah, they want a nice app, and they want to get their books, right?
Speaking of the presentation, because that's one of the things that Audible was very sneaky about, and that listeners didn't understand what was going on. And they did sometimes think that, it's not going to hurt the author at all. Because if you look at the way Audible presented their exchange, they weren't calling it returns. They were calling it an exchange. It wasn't like they were sending it back. And they advertised this not only when you finished a book, if you were in the middle of reading a book, oh, I see you're not done. Here, you want to try a different book instead? They promoted it as if it were a benefit that didn't harm anybody. And that led to the system being abused in the way it was. And it created all that confusion. And on our end, it created that lending library feel where we're not being paid for anything because the books just keep getting recycled over and over again through credits.
And the difference is, if they return it to the library, that doesn't affect us at all, because we've already sold it to the library and they own it, and they'll recycle it. This is basically, I mean, I hate to say theft, but it's basically somebody taking the book, putting it back, and like it was like they were in Barnes and Noble and they just listened to the whole thing and just put it back on the shelf.
Yeah, and
it's theft not on the part of the listener, unless they're doing it obviously because they're gaming the system. It's theft on the part of Amazon for presenting it in a way that made it confusing, that people didn't know that they were doing something wrong.
And let's not forget, I had an idea, just from, you could hear people talking about how they exchange books, and then, sometimes you see your numbers fluctuate, but, because of that dash that you showed where, you can't really see the gross and the deductions, you can only see the net. If you sell a fair number of books, you're not actually going to see the minus numbers. It's only in a slow period that you can see that. So when you add that to the fact that they're calling it exchanges, the customer, and then they're actually hiding what is happening to the provider of the goods, because that's what we are, it doesn't look good for Audible.
No.
Can I
they
ask?
got their hands caught in the cookie jar. That's the thing. They've been called out since October, and they're still trying to get away with it.
I contend that they were prepared for this. They're towing the corporate line. They're doing everything the big corporation would do in this situation. I think they knew they were dumping toxic waste into the water, and they were just waiting for somebody to call them out on it, and they were prepared when somebody did, and they've done a nice song and dance.
Yeah, and this is the business model, right? It's the flex drivers. It's the Amazon sellers, having goods returned, and they go into a giant landfill, and then the seller gets docked, and now it's us. Now it's our turn. We're just part of that model that Amazon has. And the funny thing is that as this grows, like more and more of us are consumers, but now there's more people that are actually the producers that are getting hit. So it's a real conundrum. Like, what percentage of we of, all of their providers, when you add up all these different areas of businesses where they're doing this to the little people that are providing the products, we're actually quite a big part of that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons that you guys are making traction right now, is because of the unified voice going up against, the Zon. Now, Mike asked
Exactly.
a good question here, and this goes back to the very beginning. It says, how long was this Amazon policy in place? It had always been in place, but it wasn't obvious until a glitch revealed what was going on.
Exactly. Yeah. And then also, we did get paid more once upon a time. They've actually cut our royalties down from what they were. And I shouldn't call them royalties. I should call them earnings, because we are not dealing with a publisher. We're just dealing with a store that has our stuff. And for that, we get, the magnificent sum of what we think is 40% and 25%, but it actually turns out to be much, much lower, because they fiddle around with this number called net sales.
Oh, yes. Let's go into that, because that was going to be my next topic to dive into, is what.
Well, I think Jay had a question first. Jay had a question, Katie?
I do have I kind of do have a question. Colleen, you'd mentioned a few minutes back that something about wanting this to be a healthy ecosystem, and that it's not right now. And I think that us as creators want it to be a healthy ecosystem. But two things: one, does Amazon want or care about it being an ecosystem? And two, if they don't, which I don't think they do, how do we go about convincing them that they need us to be in a healthy ecosystem to benefit them? Because clearly they just want money. That's all they want.
I don't think we're ever going to convince them. That is their model of, they're all about going after the margin of everybody. I think we need to look at what other alternatives do we have. And I think we need to focus on that. That's a positive way going forward. And, together, all of us, we can find some other ways. It's not a monumental task that we cannot overcome. We can do it. But we've got to take steps to, first of all, get this all out in the open, for starters. And then secondly, find a way where we can move forward. Like, do we have, if we have more stores, that's just better overall. But I think we just have to get out of this mindset where they're the big guy and we just kowtow to whatever they offer us, whatever crumbs they give us. But there's the thing called the tragedy of the commons, right? And that's where everybody kind of does what's good for themselves in the short term, and then in the long run, everybody is destroyed. And that's kind of the road that you go down with Amazon. And then there's always going to be a few people. There's going to be a few people that need to get groceries that day, and they're going to go, they're going to work in the warehouse. They're going to be the flex driver. They're going to do whatever, because they have an urgent need for money, and they have, they have to go somewhere. And so we don't want it to get like that. I mean, we should have some power, and, not saying that, I don't want to go off on a tangent here and get into everything, but I just think we just want a fair contract. We don't even want a contract. We just want to be able to sell our stuff. If you don't want to sell it, fine, because that's what you're telling us right now, is if you're going to give us, pennies on the dollar, and then on top of that, let people return that. So in other words, if I'm a single mom and I bought groceries back in March when the pandemic hit, and now suddenly all those, I made $1,000 maybe a month. Suddenly all that money is clawing back today. Well, I've already bought my food. I've already spent it. I'm already behind on my rent. That's just not right. You can tell I feel very strongly about this.
No, absolutely. And since we've got a couple of questions happening now in the chat regarding contracts and the costs, we should probably outline what exactly ACX does. They don't produce. They don't create, they facilitate uploading and hosting of the files. That's all they do. And for that, they take their cut, which is 70-ish% at the end, I think.
Yeah.
They really end up taking the real numbers, even though it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be like a 60-40 split. And then if you have a separate contract with your narrator to create the audiobook from your written word, then you split 50-50 if you've got a royalty share. But all ACX is doing is facilitating the uploading and hosting of the files for sale. And they are taking the majority cut of the money when they didn't put anything towards production. It's all the author and the narrator creating that audiobook.
Yeah,
Exactly. And, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I think that the only expenditure they're really doing is their QC people going through the file after you submit it. You know, making sure it looks, or it matches what they want it to match. But otherwise, it's us that's doing everything.
Exactly. And you know, there's some people in our fair deal group on Facebook, and they've been waiting 9 months for their file. So, you know, they have a royalty share with the narrator, say, and they've uploaded the files. And so they're both hoping that, you know, they're going to start making money once they finally got that product out there, and let's see some money coming in for the cost and the time spent. And it's just sitting there for 9 months. And can you imagine, like, you know, going to another store where you put your goods out there and they wouldn't get it on the shelf for 9 months?
I would go insane.
Exactly. Exactly.
And you've already counted all the cost in producing it. And just to put a round number on it, the average cost to produce an audiobook is roughly $1,800 to $2,000. And that's just the audio. That's not accounting for the book cover art, the editing, and all the stuff that went into producing the physical and ebook. This is the audiobook alone is another $1,800 to $2,000. I can talk. I really can.
Well, and you know, even if you're not spending that kind of money, even if you're working on some kind of royalty share agreement with your producer, and for those of you who haven't done audiobooks before, we call the narrators producers. They really are producing a product. They're doing the majority of the work. Even if you have some kind of agreement with them where, okay, we're splitting royalties and you're getting the first, you know, $500 worth of royalties, whatever it is that you've worked out, and you haven't spent actual cash, there is still a lot of time and effort that's being done, especially on your producer's part. I mean, they are working hard. A lot of them are renting space in some kind of some kind of studio in order to produce your audiobook, because they think,
buying the equipment, making their own audio studio.
This crap is not cheap. None of it's cheap, you know, and I think that people deserve to be paid for their expertise and the amount of time they spent on a project. And
yeah,
I think that
time is like valuable. I mean, how many times have you heard an indie author go, well, I can't write my book because I just don't have time, or somebody say, I just don't have time to do this. So time is so valuable. If you're spending all this time doing that's something you're taking away time from doing something else, and it's valuable.
Think of us as small business owners, you know, each of us that are writing our own books or narrating audiobooks, and we're all small business owners. Our time is very valuable to us. And usually we're not pulling in a ton of money. So when someone's stealing that time away from you with these bogus deals like what we've been given, I mean, that really hurts. I mean, it has a real effect on us in our livelihoods.
Now, Colleen, you wrote on the Alliance of Independent Authors site a really interesting blog about the payments and how we're not actually getting paid what we think we're getting paid from ACX, because they manipulate these numbers with those three categories. I'm going to put them back up on the screen again. It's not direct sales. If you notice, you have AL units, ALOP units, ACL units, and they each have their own calculation. So there's not a direct number that we can hold fast, even though they say
I've always wondered what the hell those meant.
And they choose the price too. They don't let us set the price. They choose the price. So we have no control once it's uploaded. And come to find out, the numbers don't add up if you actually try and use their calculations that they
think that it's your product, but they're not only choosing what price they're going to sell it for, but how much they're going to give you for it as well. And there's nothing you can do about it.
They also choose when they discount it. So they can knock it down anytime they want.
I'm imagining Darth Vader going, "Pray I don't alter the deal further." I mean, that's just kind of what it's like.
Oh, oh goodness. So, Colleen,
we got to
oh,
talk about the payments.
oh, all right.
Oh,
All
you
right. I
want me
thought
to
we
talk
were
about
already,
math?
I thought we were
Yes.
done with that already.
Yes, because I read this and I went, oh my God. And then I went back to
Only,
my dashboard and I was like, you're right. Holy crap. Ah.
only let's not talk about math. Only if you're not using core, you can talk about math. If you're going to use the course thing, I'm out. I'm done. I can't do that.
Okay, I'll make it real quick. If you want to really understand it, I think you got to go read my blog post. And if you just type in AudibleGate somewhere on social media, you'll find it.
Show notes.
Oh,
It's in
good.
our show
Perfect.
notes.
Perfect. Okay. But basically what they've done is they have sort of these selling prices that are the retail prices that they set depending on the length. And then they have a number called net sales. So what net sales is usually you take your, whatever your sales number is and you deduct off your selling costs. And they're usually small, like 5% or whatever. But, the retail price on Audible is a little bit different because it's kind of a fake price in a way. They kind of use it to make your $14.95 credit look good, like a good deal to get a more expensive book. But the long and the short of it is that they give us a stated royalty rate. For instance, on this particular case where it's a 40%, where a rights holder would get paid if they were exclusive to Audible. They weren't anywhere else but Audible, and then also Audible distributes to Apple. But that's it. It's just essentially in that store. You don't actually get 40%. So what I did in this table is I looked at the retail price and the net sales, and then I looked at, okay, it's supposed to be 40%. So I expect, like if you go down to the, let's look at the 5 hours to 10 hours category. For a $19.95 book, I expect that I'm going to get 40%. So I expect $7.98. But what I actually get is $4.15. And that's only 21%. So, if you go through the table, you can see that it's basically, instead of a flat 40% everywhere, you get a flat 21% everywhere. And, next thing we can ask is, well, why? But it doesn't really matter in the long run. What really matters is we're not getting what they said we were going to get. And I'll just point out that if we get 21%, Audible gets 79% just for the privilege of us sitting on their store, and we're doing all the work to promote and drive traffic to those books to sell. Yet they get 79% for hosting our files.
And the really scary one is the next one you sent, which is the non-exclusive rate.
Yes.
Literally.
But you know what? It's very tragic, isn't it? But what I'm going to say about this one is it's really horrendous that they get 87%. But at least if you're non-exclusive, you got a snowball's chance in hell of selling your book somewhere else. And you can make sales on Kobo, make them on Google Play, or make them on Scribd, or wherever, the libraries. Like, you at least can build your audience using price promotions because you can control the price, whereas Audible, you can't. Like you said, they can just discount your book to $5. A 3-book bundle, they can make it $5 tomorrow, and you can't do anything about it. And you won't even know because they won't tell you. So if you knew, maybe you could promote it by, doing some advertising or social media, but they don't even let you know. You see it like 2 months later on your royalty reports.
And the royalty report is, I swear, I'm not a numbers person. It is Greek when you open it up, and it's just columns of different types of categories and numbers. And when I went back to look at it after I saw your blog post, and I got a headache from doing this, I went through each line and I was comparing the costs and comparing the percentages with what I expected and what I actually got. And I was like, oh my God, they're literally stealing from right under our noses, probably because they figure we're words people, not numbers people, and we won't notice.
Well, I think they give us a bit of credit because if they thought we were just totally oblivious, they wouldn't have made the report so hard to read. And they wouldn't have made all those funny agreements where, you click here and there and things are changing before your very eyes. Like, it just wouldn't be happening. So they are doing some sleight of hand there, I believe. But yeah, the reports are hard to read. I mean, they don't even have like all the headers and footers there, which, if you're doing an Excel spreadsheet, like, at least make it look to a basic standard, please. Yeah.
Can I interject with another question? I know you're probably getting sick of that, but one, I do want to say, Katie, that That's exactly what looking at a quilting pattern looks like when you open that mess of gobbledygook. It's ridiculous. For one, you don't want to go that road.
Try to find your bounty. Try to find your bounties.
Yeah.
That took me 40 minutes to do on that website, and that's all words. Just trying to find that.
Well, what I wanted to ask is or say rather is kind of because I think that there are probably other people a little bit like me out there that are either watching now or are going to listen to the podcast, or maybe will watch in the future when they're searching up info on AudibleGate, that maybe aren't as brilliant as everyone else, and sometimes hear a lot of information being given over 45 minutes or an hour and get a little bit confused. So kind of where I'm at right now at 45 minutes in is make things really simple, is that Amazon is seriously screwing over people who are using ACX to publish audiobooks. So going from this point forward, so I'm an author. I do want to have audiobooks of my books. What do I do now that I have this information that we're seriously getting screwed? We don't want to use Audible. So what do I do at this point, currently?
It's a good question. Yeah.
Oh, it's not good.
Well, you know what I think? I think that this is going to be a bit of a long fight, but I think that you don't want to lock yourself into any multi-year agreements with anyone, because things are changing very quickly. And also, that gives you some power, some control over your rights. But, you just think back, like, when did indie publishing start? I mean, it wasn't even that long ago. It feels like it was I don't know, like 100 years ago. And that's what's happening with audiobooks right now. And, we've got the dominant provider who pays us what we thought was 40% and 25% and isn't. And then all the competition doesn't really pay much better either. I mean, they pay 45%, 50%, some of them. So, I don't have a good answer. But I do think that we've just got to keep our options open, and we have to be organized about it. And we have to, as hard as it is, we have to really look and understand our business. Some of it is math. Some of it is just, you look at it and you go, oh, that's terrible. Well, I just don't want to look at it. I just want to write or produce or whatever, because it's too hard to think that this thing that I love doing is paying less this year than it did last year. But we just got to be really aware of what's going on. And I think that, if we're all like that, we're going to get somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no easy answer right now, because for that long portion of time, Amazon has been the biggest game in town. They have been the only game in town to allow indies the ability to do this.
And Findaway Voices is, Findaway Voices is an infant. I mean, they've just started, so they're still figuring it out too.
Well, and
so Rebecca's saying here to host it yourself and on your website, and there's a small problem with that. If everybody was hosting it on their personal websites and selling them, that would become more mainstream. But we have a few people doing this, and when you do that, people don't necessarily like to buy from sources they don't know, and it's hard to get people to shift gears. And right now, Amazon is the first thing people think of when it comes to buying something online.
Well, even Rebecca's company, Three Furies Press, my books are hosted on there, and when I share links to my books, I usually will share it to their website because I want to encourage people to use it. However, 9 times out of 10, if somebody asks me for it, they want the Amazon link. That's what they're comfortable with. That's what they've always used. So it's tough to break people out of the norm.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started on this rant.
Can I make a comment about that?
Yeah.
The reason that people always go to Amazon and Audible is because there's no other store that makes or offers exclusivity, from the terms of their suppliers, that makes their suppliers be exclusive. So often it's just a simple act of, well, if I want to look somebody up, I'm going to look on the place where I know 100% of the books are. And that's one thing that I think is something that we don't often realize when we look at this exclusivity. We look at it from our point of view, but But actually, it means that the customers are being trained to only go to this one place, because maybe 70% of the books are wide and 30% are exclusive. It doesn't really matter. But if you're just looking somebody up, you're just going to want to be at the store that has everything. I mean, Jeff Bezos, he used to call the store the everything store, right? And so it's like it's the everything store, and the other stores are less than everything. So, that's a pretty good strategy if you're the store. If you're everybody else, it's not so great at all.
And it takes retraining. You hit the nail right on the head. It's people are trained to think this. It's the first thing they think of. So we have to push towards other options and make those become something that's right in the forefront. That when they think of audiobooks, they don't necessarily think of Audible. They think of other sources of places where they can get them, and that becomes the norm. But that takes time. It's not something that happens quickly.
It's kind of funny is that Mike has a really great point here. I usually direct people to Amazon because I want my sales rankings to climb, which is extremely important on Amazon. I mailed out 6 autographed copies of my book yesterday. People like signed stuff, and they do like signs. I do especially. But what's funny is that if I'm looking for something signed, I do the opposite. I will not go to Amazon. I will go and track down that author. I just bought a few signed books a week ago, and I'll go right to their site and I'll look for their autograph section and buy it right from them. But a lot of times with other products, it's like, okay, well, I need a new iron. It takes me 2 seconds to find it on Amazon. Go ahead, Joe.
Can I just say that number is the most arbitrary number in the history of numbers? It doesn't mean anything. It absolutely means nothing. It doesn't even affect the algorithm all that much. It's the worst. It is the worst. It's just bragging rights is all it is. It's really, the only time it affects that is when it gets onto the number one and gets you into the number one ranking kind of bestseller thing. But that after that, it means nothing. It absolutely means nothing.
I don't look at it because I don't like staring into the void. It's been staring back at me for too long, so I stay away from it.
So Anita makes a comment here about Bookfunnel being able to distribute audiobooks, and that's a good option. There are other options available, and they're still kind of in their infancy, which is why a lot of authors don't even know about them yet. But
our favorite person, right, Katie?
What's that?
Our favorite person at Mr. Evan Gao. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yep.
Oh,
he's also
frozen.
Story Origin. What? Sorry, I can't tell if you're hearing me or not. You guys keep talking over me.
You were breaking up there. Sorry.
Okay.
Oh.
All right. So what I was saying is we as authors need to start pushing more of these platforms, not only on consumers, but we need to let other authors know. We need to share the knowledge in order to get the ball rolling, get them moving towards these other areas. I had a client this week ask me about audiobooks, and I told her the entire story about AudibleGate and what's going on. And what my suggestion was is if she's dead set on going to audio right now, Findaway Voices and avoid the ACX chain right now. And that means not putting yourself in the ACX distribution at this point, because until that's solved, you're only hurting yourself.
Well, and I agree, Katie. And here's another tough thing right now, which I think will be solved in the future as these other platforms step forward and try to make life a little bit better for us. But to use ACX, a lot of times you do have that option to do a royalty share. However, if you're producing an audiobook on your own and you want to host it on your website, or you want to distribute it through Bookfunnel or something else, you're going to be footing all that cost in doing that yourself and then going to distribute it. So hopefully that there are some good options in the less expensive options in the future for sites that maybe will help you assemble an audiobook and do it professionally and get it out there that aren't ACX. Because that's another potential stumbling block. That does require some expertise that not a lot of people have at this point. You guys are also
a supply and demand thing. The more that we see what is needed to continue making things happen, those will be able to pop up. I know there are other options for creating a deal with narrators, with producers, in order to produce the book. We just have to find them and share them.
Yeah.
It's weirdly quiet right now. This is bizarre. This is not
Well,
normal.
I didn't want to, I stepped on Katie and I didn't want to step on her anymore. So I was just I'm making sure that, because I know
Are you okay, Katie?
her internet was a little wonky for a second. So I just wanted to
Are
make
you
sure
okay, Katie?
I'm fine.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm really passionate about this issue because I'm sick of seeing it. You know, this has been since the beginning of publishing. Amazon has found ways to hurt authors and to squeeze us and to force us into certain things. And it's one thing after another and after another. And, you know, I'm only going on 10 years or 11 years now in indie publishing, and I've seen so much. It's like it continues to get worse rather than better. So I want to see some good things happen for us indies. We work too damn hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to, because it was kind of muddled in all the confusion there. I wanted to reiterate that what Evan Gal's doing at Story Origin is very important, and he's really making strides with the audiobooks, and he's really starting to listen. He knows about AudibleGate and all that, and so he's really geared his platform to kind of help authors have other avenues to explore. And it's free. It's absolutely 100% free right now. I mean, so there's no reason why you shouldn't be doing that if you can.
Well, Colleen, as we're kind of getting to the close of this hour, what can the rest of us do as authors to help you and what you're doing to try to help us? It's like a Jerry Maguire type statement there.
Help me, help us all.
But what can we do?
Well, I think the first thing is just to be aware as authors and get involved. I think that it's easy to say, well, I've got to do my writing maybe tomorrow, but some of us, like Susan May and I, we put our lives on hold. Basically, we're doing this more than full time. We're working like 12 hours a day, and nobody asked us to do it. So I'm not, asking anybody to appreciate that really, but I just think that if more people got involved, we could really do something. We've already done quite a bit collectively, and we can do so much more. This is our chance. Let's not let it wither away. Join the Fair Deal group on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Keep up with these great podcasts. Or sorry, it's not. I don't know the name for the video cast. What? It's a pod. Oh, it is. Okay.
We do have
Okay.
the podcast too. Yeah.
And I think just like, before you sign your rights to somebody, or before you decide to, put your book on ACX or anywhere for that matter, really read the contract. I know it's painful. If you don't understand the math of the contract, just ask somebody to give you the short answer on it, but just be informed, because too many of us are going into things, sometimes it's kind of like it feels good if, somebody wants to sign you to a contract and you think you don't have enough time. But, the thing is, you're comparing the wrong amount of money to whatever that time is, because you're not looking at the real numbers. And right here, I've shown what those real royalties are not. And that is just one small thing. There's all kinds of places where we think the number is one thing and it's different. So, I think that and the Facebook, the name is Fair Deal for Rights Holders and Narrators. Go check it out.
Thank you so much.
I gave a lawyer friend of mine a contract from Amazon once, and he wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. He said, "No, I'm not even looking at that. I would use too many sticky notes."
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's just not right to expect us to make an informed decision when they're making it impossible to understand what they're doing, and that's not okay. So,
yeah.
Well, Katie, what do you think?
I don't know. Have we said all we can say on this subject, or all that we can say for now? Because again, we won't get an update until probably March now, when they release that the accounting numbers or the new dashboard. That we'll see what that looks like. I know some people on the Fair group have posted screenshots of their dashboard being altered a little, so that might be some of the implementation. But it looked horrible from what I saw. It looked even worse.
Imagine a company the size of Amazon programming on the fly on your live site. What the heck? That's insane.
Yeah, I
They
think
do it. They do it because it creates confusion. They're doing
Probably.
they're doing the corporate playbook.
Yeah.
They're doing the corporate playbook because it creates confusion. They're doing it because it creates confusion, and that's what they want. They want you to be confused.
I just want to point out that I have been very good and serious for this whole show. I am really proud of myself. And Regine says, "Great show, folks." Thank you so much, Colleen. So thank you for watching, Regine.
Yes,
Well,
thank you, Colleen.
this is yeah, and I think that I have learned a lot because I only knew the, kind of the basic overview stuff. And the more you know, the darker and more horrible it is. But I think it's important for us to know this stuff. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us, Colleen.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's really been fun.
Yeah. Well, Katie, you
Yes,
want to
and
roll us out today
bringing
after?
you guys back again, you and Susan both, after we get some more updates, some more information, to come back and give us kind of a, an overview of what's happening, what's going on, what we can do. I know you guys are ramping up the professional Facebook page that is AudibleGate. So just look for AudibleGate on Facebook. And we do have those updates coming in March. So fingers crossed that it's not the hot mess that it seems to be right now.
Yeah, and stay tuned. There's some posts coming out this week that you're going to find more mathy, but still fascinating.
Will those be
Are
on
there
the
pictures?
Alliance of Independent Authors?
Yes, they will.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We will definitely be following along. Anybody have any last thoughts before we head out and say goodbye to our other sponsors?
Do you not? Oh yeah, I was gonna say, do you not have another sponsor that you want to mention before we leave?
Sponsors,
The
man,
boss comes
sponsors
on the show and he just like
Right?
cracks the whip the whole time.
bossing us around.
What the heck, man? There you go. There we go. And we know she's watching too. So Mistress Rebecca Dirty Jonesy, we know that you will be entertained. She readings every Thursday on her Facebook group, and she is an amazing reader. You have to hear her. She doesn't stumble over her words at all. Man, I want to be her when I grow up. But she has some really awesome books, and she has always been a fan of our show, and she is one of the family. So we love you, Rebecca, and everyone needs to definitely go check her books out.
Yes, and Rebecca actually sponsors my other podcast, which is not video, so I guess it's just a podcast, and she's just a wonderful sponsor to have. She's so passionate about all of these things. So, thank you, Rebecca.
Correction, Wednesdays, not Thursdays.
Wednesdays.
Wednesdays.
Yep, Wednesdays for the live reading. Yes, and she is good. Well, all right, guys. I think that's about it. I apologize for not being off the wall tonight, but there's kind of a lot of info that we had to give you here, so we had to do it right.
Don't worry. I'm sure there's some goofy author that's going to come on next week, and Jay, you can just go to town.
Yes. Well, our last guest, that Jason Stewart, he was on my other podcast, and it went really well. And actually, it wasn't madness like I thought it might be. So he was very well behaved. Last time we talked to him, he was roasting all of us where we sat. So
yes. You have the Martha Stewart Collection Studio, and I had the child's
I think it was
bedroom
Green Acres.
And poor Brian.
All right, guys.
Poor Brian.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, share it around, tell your friends, and we'll see you next Saturday. Bye.